I love Cleveland just because of the people, but as far as the town goes, I mean, there's
nothing there.
Not much to love. I learned English, I think it took maybe like 6 months to have a conversation. She walks me outside and she's like, Sky, repeat. I'm like, what? She's like, repeat. I'm like, okay, sky. She's like, bush. And she would just like point at things. And that was how I started learning English. I got bullied. I got, like thrown fries at in the cafeteria. We always have 2 roads to take, 2 options, and it's up to you. And I just decided that it was gonna make me stronger. I survived a freaking war. Like, I need to go out there and get it. I need to go after my dreams. I need to go live my life. Giving up and, just being depressed is not an option.
Therapy and all these things that are becoming popularized are just a band-aid for not fixing the problem.
The most desirable men in this world are men who can talk about how they feel. We're not meant to go through life alone. We're meant to go through it together. A lot of men who are like obsessed with porn, they're watching porn every single day, this and that, they're not happy. Knowledge is power, okay? And if you know why something is happening, you're gonna know why you're making the same mistake multiple times.
Welcome to Unattainable. Glad to have you with us. I'm your host, Zach Evans, along here with my co-host, Mohammed Molai. And first of all, thank you to all of our listeners. We've been getting a ton of growth and engagement over the last few months, and we got to thank you guys out there for that. Today, we got a special guest on the show. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, your name, what you do, and your star sign.
Hi, guys. My name is Dajana. I am a producer and an actress in Los Angeles, and I'm an Aquarius.
Aquarius. You guys are either my best friends or mortal enemies, one of the two.
Well,
so we'll see.
I'd like to think best friends because we get along with everybody. And we're actually the most unique sign in the zodiac.
That's what everybody says.
There's actually, you can Google it. There's the least amount of Aquariuses in the world.
Oh, like you're the most rare.
Rare.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's 28 days in February, so maybe
that's something.
I see. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Did you say where you're from?
Yes, so I was born in Bosnia. I'm half Croatian, half Serbian.
When did you move to the U.S.?
I moved to the U.S. In 2004, so I was a teenager.
2004?
Yes.
And how old are you now?
35.
35. Oh, okay.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your upbringing, why you moved to the U.S., and what you started doing, and how did you get into producing and acting?
Yeah, so I was born in Yugoslavia. Have you guys heard of Yugoslavia?
Yes.
Okay, so
I'm like 5%.
I'm going to quiz you. I'm just kidding. So 2 years later, a war started. And I lived in that war with my family. It was tragic. It's not like when America's in war, and you kind of don't know and don't see anything. It was the kind of war where you still stay at home for 6 months at a time. You can't go outside. You're in danger at all times. And so those were my first memories. So when I was 5.5, the war ended. And then I found myself now in Bosnia because Yugoslavia broke apart into a few other different countries, which now is like Bosnia, Croatia, Macedonia, Slovenia. You get the point. And then my parents divorced shortly after that. My dad's Croatian, mom is Serbian. Those were the two that were fighting in the war. I don't think that has anything to do with their divorce, but just, the war and everything else. It just took a toll on their marriage.
Were they both on the same opinion of the war? Or did they kind of each take their home country side?
Well, yeah, they each took their home country side. And then it was very interesting, because we were living in what's now Bosnia. So my cousin, for example, who's Croatian, he had to go and fight against Croatians. So he was basically like killing his own people. So it's like a very complicated history in that part of the world, which is why I totally understand people that don't know much about it, because it just gets very complex. And then my parents, they just decided once I'm done with middle school that I would move to America. Nobody asked me. They divorced. My dad moved to America, and they were like, all right, when you hit 13 years old, you're going to move to America. And I didn't want to. I never wanted to. I'm like one of those people that never wanted to move to America. I was at that time, I already had my sister, my half sister that my mom had. She was my best friend. I loved her so much. We had this incredible bond, which we still have today. And I didn't want to leave them. But I had no choice. And so I turned 13 and they started working on my papers. My dad already became a refugee and got his green card through that. And then at 14 years old, I found myself in Cleveland, of all places. And, you know, like before that, when you see America on TV, you see New York, you see LA, and you think it's beautiful. And then I come to this like industrial town. It's so gray. It's kind of depressing. I love Cleveland just because of the people. But as far as the town goes, I mean, there's
nothing there.
Not much to love. And so, yeah, I mean, I remember waiting on that yellow bus and not speaking a word of English and not knowing like where I'm going, you know, what the school's going to look like, what these people are going to be like, how am I going to even get through the day without speaking English? So that was really challenging for me. And I learned English, I think it took maybe like 6 months to have a conversation, but it took me longer than that to actually speak it fluently and understand it. And I remember the first day of school, the tutor didn't know what to do with me because she looked at me and she's like, you literally know nothing. And I'm just looking at her. I have no idea what she's saying. And so she walks me outside and she's like, Sky, repeat. And I'm like, what? She's like, repeat. I'm like, okay, Sky. She's like, bush. And she would just like point at things. And that was how I started learning English.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so it took me like 6 months, like I said, to learn conversational English. And it was really a hard time in my life. You know, I didn't really feel like I was fitting in. And then in America, there's a lot of bullying for some reason more than in other countries. Like,
that surprises me. I thought it would be less in America where it's kind of stigmatized more and it's kind of everybody be nice.
Yeah, well, I went to Menor High School, and that school at that time was the biggest in Ohio. And we had 4 kids in one semester commit suicide because of bullying.
Wow. Crazy.
So it was very tough. Yeah, even one of my really close friends.
Did you get bullied?
Yeah, I got bullied. I got, you know, like thrown fries at in the cafeteria. People were just like, haha, you don't speak English. One day I remember being in this kitchen class, and this boy, I was talking to him, and then the teacher asked me something to say out loud, which like I hated that. Like if I had to say anything out loud for the people to hear, I was like, oh, here it comes. They're going to make fun of me. And instead of saying, yep, you know, when you say like, yep, I didn't know that's how you say it. So I said, yep. And then you can laugh. All the kids were like, yup. And then they started calling me yup. And then this one freaking boy, this blonde boy, like every time he would see me in the hallway, he'd be like, hey, yup, what's up? And so it was just a lot, you know. And it's funny because fast forward, after I was in LA for like 2 years and I was posting, you know, my crazy life and all these things I was getting to do, he actually messaged me on Facebook and he's like, I am so proud of you. I just want to tell you how amazing it is to see someone from our high school make it in life. And I'm like, first of all, I don't think I made it, but do you remember bullying me like every day for 2 years? And he's like, no. He's like, did I really? I'm so sorry. He's like, that was a part of my like daily life. I bullied everyone. So he's like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, well, I mean, thanks for saying sorry, but now that you have a son, I hope you'll teach him better.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people that I meet that go through challenging times, and your time seems much more challenging than the challenging times a lot of people face, right? A lot of people come out negative or jaded or almost like there's no hope, right? And I feel like I don't read that energy on you at all. And based on the success you've had, it seems like you kind of took the other road, which was, this is very hard. Great, it makes me stronger, and you learn from it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we always have 2 roads to take, 2 options, and it's up to you. And I just decided that it was going to make me stronger. I survived a freaking war. Like, I need to go out there and get it. I need to go after my dreams. I need to go live my life. I can't settle. I have to wake up and be grateful. I have to be happy. I want to be an example to other people that are dealing with things. You know, for me, giving up and, you know, just being depressed is not an option. That's kind of just, I mean, I know it sounds bad, but that's the easy way. It's easy. You lay in bed and you're depressed and you don't do anything and you're just like, that's not what I'm gonna do with this precious life that I get to have, because a lot of people don't get to live this life. A lot of people my age died in the war that I lived in. So I get to live. I get to do something with this gift.
I agree 100%, and I get a lot of flack on this show when I talk about this. But I think, especially for men, that therapy and all these things that are becoming popularized are just a Band-Aid for not fixing the problem, right? And it becomes almost a conduit for emotional avoidance disguised as healing, right? Because it's a lot easier to avoid the problem and, sit in the corner of your room with your eyes closed, humming to the universe like a moron, right? Or scribbling in your $400 gratitude journal on how you're going to feel better than it is to go look in the mirror, tell your inner child, shut the fuck up, bitch. I run shit now. And wipe up those tears and go fix the problem,
Yeah, exactly. And decide to not be numb. Because you know how many people are walking around this world just feeling nothing, especially men. Like you said, because men, they have this thing, it's not cool to feel. It's not cool to be vulnerable or show my emotions or, say how I feel. To me, the most desirable men in this world are men who can talk about how they feel.
I don't know if I agree with you on that.
Really?
Yeah.
But I'm not saying in a way where cry and say, oh my God, I'm so in love with you. I'll die for you. I'm obsessed with you. But more of I'm dealing with so much stress at work. Just share that with someone, because if you don't share and you just keep everything in, eventually you're either going to get anxiety, depression, some kind of a mental thing. Something is going to break, because we're not meant to go through life alone. We're meant to go through it together. So why don't you think that men should show emotions?
It's not that I think they shouldn't. I just don't think. I think girls oftentimes say they want an emotional guy, but what they really want is a very strong guy who's not that emotional, but who shows that he cares in one way or another.
Yeah, I think that has to do with preference and also where people are in their growth and in their evolution.
Maybe.
Because if you've done the work, I mean, I don't believe it. When people say I'm whole, I've healed, I don't believe in that. I think that healing and growing and evolving is a lifelong process. But I do believe that people that work on themselves constantly, they crave those deep conversations. They crave those deep connections. It's not just about, let's hook up. Those kind of people actually, after they just have casual sex, feel like shit after, because it meant nothing. A lot of men who are obsessed with porn, they're watching porn every single day, this and that, they're not happy. People crave emotional and true connection with someone. And in this day and age, it doesn't even have to be a relationship if you don't want it to be, but you do need to have those connections, not just with a partner, with someone that you're having sex with, but also with your friends, with your family. I mean, when's the last time you sit with your father or your mother and you actually have a deep conversation, more than just, hey, how are you? How's your day? I don't want to talk about my day. I'm sick and tired of surface. I want to go beyond that. And I want to know you, the real you. I want to know about your childhood. I want to know about what scares you, what you love the most. I want to know, just everything about you, what got you to this point in life. And that's my biggest problem with LA, is that I'm outgrowing the people that I know in LA. I know there are good people out here too, but I'm sick of the surface level. I don't care what car you drive at this point. I have my own apartment, I have my own car. What else do you offer? So it depends. I agree with you, but it also depends on where you are in your process.
Yeah, for sure. And I do agree that the level of kind of fakeness in LA and superficial quality to it is driven by this need to be the top dog or the most successful, especially for a lot of people who came from a small town, where in that small town they were top shelf, right? And they were the best singer or the hottest girl or the best whatever, and then they come to LA
and then you're
they're middle of the pack. It's yo, you're just average now. And I think a lot of people can't handle that, and they've never developed the work ethic and the drive because in their hometown they never needed it. because everybody just gave them shit because they were cool for no reason.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
It's like, now you got to put in the work. Welcome to reality,
Yeah, you're no longer a 10 now. You're like a 3.
Yeah,
So.
now you're like a 3. Better start doing some push-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you moved to LA, and what was the purpose that you moved to LA for?
So to go back, I lived in Cleveland. I finished college there. My dad's very strict. He told me I can't move anywhere till I'm done with college. So I did. I finished journalism and promotional communications in 3.5 years and just got out of there. And you know why? Mainly because I just wanted bigger and better for myself. I just kind of, before I even ever been to LA, I knew it was LA for me because I like nice weather. And then also I knew that the opportunities in the entertainment world would be here. So at first I was really struggling. The first, I would say about 1 year in LA, I was really struggling. I came here, I think it was just like $1,500 or $2,000. It was 12 years ago. I lived with a roommate who was doing questionable things and was trying to get me to do questionable things with her. And that's where my morals and my values and my strict dad came in. Because imagine, like, my rent is coming up and I have no money. And she's like, so if we just go hang out with my friend, he'll pay our rent for 3 months. And I'm like, well, what do you mean hang out?
Hang out, yeah.
So it was more of that kind of hanging out, And I'm like, no, I'm cool. Worst case scenario, I'll just go back to Cleveland. I don't want to, but I will. So there's a lot of temptation that comes, the kind of temptation that makes you lose your soul in LA. And I've seen it over and over and over again with so many girls. Like when I worked at One Oak, I see these beautiful young girls coming in with like, this like beautiful, happy innocence. And then they get into drugs and alcohol and sex and selling, their bodies. And listen, I'm not judging also. Like I'm a very understanding person. I had a friend who did that, but she was cool. She was able to do it. But most people are not. Most people look themselves in the mirror and they don't like what they see. And that's when you have a problem. And so I've seen so many girls, countless girls from all around the world. They just lose themselves. They lose their innocence. And then some end tragically, some not. Multiple suicides that I know of. So really sad stuff, So the roommate, to go back to that, she's the one that actually ended up committing suicide.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And I was just so glad that I was able to say no, because I thought about it. Let's be real. I'm struggling and someone's offering like $5,000, $10,000 to hang out and they're like young and not bad looking. You got to really think long and hard about that. Like it wasn't just like no right away. I thought about it. I was like, oh my God, it would help so much. But then I'm like, but then what's the price of that? So long story short, I literally ate rice and KFC every day for like a month and a half. No money, so broke, started going to church, started praying. And I'm just like, please God, don't let me go back to Cleveland. Started, bottle service. And then my life changed overnight. Bottle service was it for me at that time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because like now I've been in LA, like 10 years or something. So I've seen girls who are just getting into modeling or the scene or the entertainment industry. And then I've seen girls kind of like on their way out, right? Mm-hmm. And one big problem that happens is when you're young as a girl, when you're 20, 21, 22, right? It's like your lifestyle is so insane because of the opportunities you get. And your potential to earn income based on just your beauty is insane because you could do something like what you were talking about with your roommate. You could do OnlyFans. You could do sugar daddy things, anything like that. The problem is if you don't build a skill set and a work ethic during those 10 years of your 20s, eventually you're going to hit the point where those opportunities are starting to dry up. But you haven't spent 10 years building a skill set. And on top of that, most of these girls are accustomed to this crazy, insane lifestyle. So for them to start out and start eating KFC when they're, 30 years old and start as an intern somewhere, there's no way. Like they don't have the discipline built up and they don't have the skill set and career path. So then it's just like, well, I got to marry a rich guy. But now a lot of the rich guys are going for the younger girls. So now it's like, this very sad like character arc where they're kind of at the end, and it was great in their 20s, and now it kind of sucks. Where you kind of chose the path of like it sucks early on, but now you're like crushing it.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I always tell girls this, younger girls especially, you have to have some kind of skills, and you have to work on yourself, because eventually, you know, those kinds of offers will disappear. And even if you marry rich, I mean, depends on what you want in life, right? But he's never going to respect you if you have nothing going on. Maybe there's like 1 in a million that will, but most men want you to have some kind of skill set. And that doesn't mean that he wants you to be working full time when you're married to him, but something prior to him, not just like, hey, I waited for you to save me. You know, nobody respects that. So I would recommend to everyone to always keep learning, even men. I've always, like my entire life, I'm always learning new things. Like during COVID, I was bored. I learned Spanish. Like now we can do this in Spanish. I'm like 90% there, pretty fluent. Every time I travel anywhere where they speak Spanish, they get like shocked. And so always be learning something new, improving yourself. And that's also how you keep your mind stimulated and you don't get depressed. You don't get anxious, you know, like people that are, and I've been dealing with that myself, you know, with all the trauma that I've been through. I've had anxiety really bad and panic attacks, and I notice it gets really bad when I'm bored. Like if I'm not doing anything, it gets bad. So I'm constantly learning new things and improving myself in some way.
And what triggers the anxiety or that kind of stuff?
So lack of control is a big one for me. So like if I'm on an airplane and I know it's like you're shit out of luck, if something goes wrong, there's nothing you can do. So I don't like the fact that like, oh my gosh, I'm in a plane and I can't do anything about it. But then, you know, it's not rational, but I still can't help it. So the second it starts being bumpy, my hands are tingling, like my fingers, you know, I'm getting hot, I'm getting sweaty, I'm seeing like double, and my body starts going through this. But then I have to remind myself, it's just anxiety. I'm not going to die. This is normal. This happens to everyone. And especially from someone that comes from the Balkan culture like me, people from where I come from have been through a lot, you know, wars, and they don't believe in that, most people. So like if I go and tell my family member I have anxiety, they'll be like, shut up, you're bored, go find something to do.
I see.
You know, there's no PTSD, there's no anxiety, there's no depression, there's none of that. We're just like, shut up, suck it up, there are bigger problems out there.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I just think it's important to kind of just to get yourself through that. And I'm anti-pills, so I don't want to take anything because
I'm the same way.
Yeah, I know my brain I can just the way I caused it, I can help myself get through it. So you have anxiety too?
I mean, I wouldn't say I have anxiety, but I get anxiety, I guess.
Okay.
I have definitely some level of social anxiety.
Oh,
which
really?
stems from when I was back in like middle high school, right? My family was very poor. My dad was a gym teacher. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. They had 6 kids. So I'd always get made fun of because I would always wear like my cousin's hand-me-downs. So they'd be way too big for me. And all the other kids in the school would have these little polos with a little alligator. Like they were like clones of each other. They all had the same shirt, just different colors. And they'd, you know, step out of their mom's Range Rover and they'd all make fun of us for like our clothes. So I didn't have any friends really in like middle school. High school, my freshman year, there was a new kid to the school. So he didn't have any friends. I didn't have any friends. So we like really bonded and kind of did everything together. We'd eat lunch together. We'd play video games together, have like sleepovers, stuff like that. And it was the first time in my life that I remember really feeling happy. Like I would really just wake up and like look forward to going to school because Nate was going to be there, you know?
Aww.
But then one day around like winter, one of the football players started this rumor that we're gay together.
Oh, God.
And for me, I'm like, you know, who cares what these people think? Like, I know like we're not gay, whatever. And back then, gay wasn't cool like it kind of is now. It was like very like not cool, you know? So I was like, who cares, right? But I could feel Nate slowly starting to kind of distance himself. And it really hit me right after we came back from like winter break. It was the first day of lunch, and you know, I sit in our usual spot, back right corner of the lunchroom, and I see Nate from across the room with his little tray, and he makes eye contact with me, And then he looks away really quickly. And then I see him go sit down at like a different table. And that moment, it was like, not only did I feel obviously like devastated that like my best friend at the time pretty much like ditched me, you know, but there was this overwhelming just like feeling of anxiety that everybody was going to see me eating lunch alone.
That you're alone.
And this is my freshman year. So now there's like seniors in the lunchroom, you know, you're like, you want to be cool, everything like that.
And that's so intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like stood up and I was like walking around the lunchroom and I like, my hands were like shaking with my tray because I was like, fuck, who do I sit by? I'm kind of like looking, like trying to find a spot. And I literally snaked the entire lunchroom because I'm procrastinating the like hard conversation. Hey, like, can I sit down? It's awkward, right? So I got all the way to the end. And at this point, I have to sit down. There's nowhere else to go. So I'm like, hey, guys, is anybody sitting here? And they all like stopped talking and like looked at me. And they're like, no, you're good. And it was like, they didn't say anything mean or rude, but it was just that feeling of like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Why are you sitting here? We don't even know you. And I sat there for 3 or 4 days, and it was just the most awkward lunches ever because it was just that energy of like, why are you here with us, right?
Yeah.
So then I just went back to my spot and just started sitting alone again. But the craziest thing is, like, to this day, if I like go to a party where like I don't know anybody there, it's just like me and like one of my friends, I still like get that feeling. It like brings me back to like when I like don't know who to talk to with my little lunch tray, and I still feel like some level of that same kind of anxiety. And I've kind of developed like almost like a character that's entertaining and funny and engaging to kind of like, okay, no, well, people will like me if I'm funny and engaging and I can talk in a certain way, but I still feel it. It's like I've never been able to shake it. And I don't know if there's a way to shake it. I think it just might be, this is just who I am. I just have to like deal with what it is.
Yeah. I don't think it's who you are, but I think it's just one of those moments, you know, like there's only a few moments in life that you remember forever. And some are really good and some are really bad. And I think that's just one of the bad ones for you. But I mean, look at you now. I mean, you're on a podcast and you can't stop talking. So you're doing good.
I mean, I'm doing good now, you know. But that's even why I say, like, I don't believe in therapy for guys, because it's kind of like, okay, I could have, like, gone to therapy and the therapist is like, oh, little boo-boo, let's make you feel better and, like, talk about your feelings. But instead, the only thing that worked was, like, okay, I have to, like, learn how to be funny and entertaining and engaging and learn, like, charisma to some extent. And that actually solved the problem. So now when I feel like that, okay, like I still feel it, but now I have this like ability to talk to people and like join a group and everything else that I didn't have back then.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like the therapy would have almost like fucked me up because then I never would have developed that skill set.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I think sometimes when you do therapy, they keep wanting to dig through your past, and you have to keep reliving it. And I felt like I was in therapy for way too long, and then I felt like at the end I'm like, I don't want to keep going back to the moment, or like when I heard the grenade, or like when I've already done it a million times. Like I'm ready to move on. So I think it's okay to kind of know where certain things stem from. Like if you're saying social anxiety, you already know that's where it comes from. So that's already, awareness is already like step one. And so I agree with you in a way. Like I think that people do need therapy but not for too long, and not to dig through their past a million times over. I think once you address it, it's time to move on.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's like, okay, who cares if you know the root of the cause? If it's like, oh, your problem is like you sabotage relationships when they get too serious. It's like you could like figure out it's because when you're 5, your mom hugged you too tight and now you have trauma. Or you could just stop sabotaging relationships. Just like wake up one morning, spin around 3 times, like click your heels together and just stop sabotaging relationships, you know?
Or subconscious action. Well, first of all,
time to argue, baby. Let's go.
Okay. Just because you found the path to get over your trauma and figure out how to cope with it doesn't mean that everybody does. Some people can't find the path because they can't see what's in front of them. They can't see the door. So they have to go to therapy because the person that they're talking to, then it's going to shed light on what the problem is to begin with. When the person is not equipped with self-awareness enough to be able to see themselves fully and figure out where their trauma stems from and where it comes from, then they're going to be incapable of fixing it to begin with because they just don't know what the problem is. If you don't know what the problem is, if you don't understand the equation, you will never be able to solve it.
I think you have to understand the problem. I don't think you have to understand where the problem stems from.
It's natural curiosity to want to know where it stems from.
Sure, like maybe it makes you feel better.
Of course.
I don't think it helps solve the problem, though.
It would in some cases, because if you know where the problem is, then you could figure out that like, oh, okay, this would be how I could actually fix it. In your case, if you didn't know why you are the way you are, mm-hmm. perhaps you would still find a way. But when you get the anxiety, there is a deep part of you that still would want to ask the question of why am I like this?
Yeah.
I mean, it might be interesting.
It has nothing to do with being interesting.
Like I did
wired this way.
23andMe because I want to know like where my ancestors are from. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my life.
As human beings, we're wired to be curious. And so having the question is just a normal human being behavior.
But it's like saying like, okay, if my iPhone's not working, okay, I like figure out, oh, my iPhone's not working. Oh, I have to like do these steps. I have to like reset it and then hold the button for 8 seconds and now my iPhone works, right? I can fix my iPhone without knowing that the reason that happened is somewhere in the lines of JavaScript inside the code of my iPhone. This thing was off and that's the reason that my iPhone's not working. I can just hold the button for 8 seconds. Boom, problem solved.
That's assuming your iPhone stops working one time and then that happens and then you fixed it and problem is solved. But if the iPhone keeps doing the same thing over and over again, are you not going to ask yourself the question of why is this happening? I need to fix the root cause of the problem as opposed to just keep doing the same thing and then the problem keeps popping up.
Yeah, but the root cause of the problem isn't your past. Like it's like, okay, you have this trauma from your past, but the cause of the problem is the action that you repeatedly take. It's not.
The root cause of the problem is your subconscious. And if you can't figure out where the subconscious turned on you, you're not going to be able to fix it.
Why?
Because it's your subconscious. It keeps repeating itself. Just like the iPhone, it keeps going through the same steps over and over again. Yeah. Root cause must be fixed.
Nah, I don't think so.
I mean, this is not an argument of like it's not a subjective issue.
If I go to the gym and I don't understand the reason that my muscles get bigger is because progressive overload and adaptation to stress, if I do this 20 times at the gym, it doesn't matter if I understand anything. My muscles.
Your
get
example
bigger.
Makes no sense. This is not a subconscious because you're not subconsciously doing this every single time. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, you're consciously changing your behavior.
Zach.
Regardless of what you think about it.
Okay, knowledge is power, okay? And if you know why something is happening, you're going to know why you're making the same mistake multiple times. Like, it's like the same example when, for example, girls are always in a relationship with the same man, right? Mm-hmm. They always pick the one that's going to be emotionally unavailable. And it's like literally almost like being in a relationship with the same man. They just have a different name, but it's the same exact person until you learn. Until you learn, you're going to keep making the same mistake. So to side with Mo here, you have to have knowledge of like where this comes from. Like, why am I choosing this type of man always? Why? Oh, it comes from that, from that time in my life where I was dealing with a certain issue. Mm-hmm. So now that I know about this issue, I can work on it. I can fix it by changing the way I feel about it, by making it into a positive, by making it into a lesson. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think knowledge comes into play.
To give you credit, I understand why you have this perspective. And I understand that just like any other occupation, psychologists are human beings. There are good ones, there are bad ones. There are shitty ones, there are great ones. Mm-hmm. And so you could go to a psychologist, you could go to therapy, and you could sit there and the person in front of you could do such a shitty job that you'd have the perspective of, why am I here? They're not fixing me. They're not doing anything for me. But that doesn't apply across the board to every single psychologist that's out there. there are people who have the techniques, who have the ability and the knowledge to be able to really help others that are going through trauma and have problems subconsciously that they're not unaware of, and be able to really pull out how deep they are and to come up with a solution to help them to fix it. And so, you know, if you talk to somebody and they're like, I had a therapist and you know, they were shitty, and so I just stopped going to therapy, right? Mm-hmm. I would use the same example of if your car breaks down and you went to a mechanic and the mechanic couldn't fix the car, would you say that all the mechanics suck and they don't know how to fix cars? No. You would go find a mechanic that knows how to fix the car.
Potentially.
Not potentially, 100%.
Two things to that. One, I feel like most people I meet in therapy are still going to therapy forever. It's like 5 years ago they're going to therapy and they're still, like, imagine you went to a car mechanic and it's like 5 years later your car is still broken. Like, at some point wouldn't you be like, all right, I don't think this is working, let me try something else instead of this mechanic?
First of all, it doesn't particularly, you don't, I think you have that perspective because you don't really know why they're going to therapy. But there is also another aspect of, again, you could be going to a therapist who is kind of dragging along your problems.
Yeah.
So that could be one
That's
scenario.
what I feel like I see with most people.
But another scenario could be that the person who is going to therapy is finding a home, a second home, where the relationship that they have built with this person has become more of an attachment. And so they start to really feel calm every time they have a session, or after they have a session, mm-hmm. where then once they come out of it, they feel relieved and they feel very good because of how good this person is at their job, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah, it's like a safe space.
Yeah. So when you find that, and especially depending on the person's upbringing, if they have a complicated relationship with their family, if they don't really have close friends, or whatever the case is, you could kind of understand why they feel this way and why they keep going to therapies for 5, 6 years, 10 years, and they have built this sort of relationship with this person that knows them so well, especially because everybody's different. If I have a person, just like how you have the tendency not to want to get rid of any of your friends, regardless of what they do to you, right? There are some people who don't want to get rid of their therapist because they've become so close to them. And because they feel like, oh, wow, like there's this one person who knows everything about me, understands me. If I make a mistake, I know where to go. And it's not that they're constantly making mistakes, but it's the feeling of it's inevitable. And at some point, I am going to make a mistake. And so therefore, I don't want to lose my relationship with this one person who's so close to me. So there's just like ton of different perspectives of why people do the things they do. But I also, again, understand the perspective of you're going to somebody who's so shitty that keeps dragging you along because they find you as bait. And they're like, oh shit, this is how I'm going to pay my bills. And obviously the more I could squeeze this person and keep this person around, the longer I'd be able to make sure that I have business coming in. Mm-hmm. So I get it, but it doesn't apply to every single person.
Mm-hmm. I would just worry that what if the therapist took away too much of my trauma and I'm just happy all the time? Like I'm just like a well-adjusted adult. Like that would suck. Like imagine like you're just like walk outside every day like, oh, the sky is so blue. Look at the birds, they're chirping. Like that, I don't want that life.
Well, let me tell you, that would be you after one session of ayahuasca, I'd tell you that.
Oh, Jesus.
You'd be like, this world is such a beautiful place and I know how to play a piano? Like, what?
Have you done ayahuasca?
Yeah, and also people say that ayahuasca is like 10 years of therapy.
I've heard
and
that.
For some people, it works better than therapy. So it's really, depends on what works for a certain individual. Mm-hmm. And you get to see, ayahuasca really exposes everything to you, like what you have to work on. And so, I agree with you that therapy is not for everyone. Some people might just want to go do some mushrooms or do ayahuasca, or some might want to sit down and do nothing and be sober and sit in solitude for a month. I don't know. But I think everyone will eventually find like what works for them if they truly want to.
And like, if you have real anxiety, then I could understand therapy. You know what I mean? Like if someone went to war and their best friend got blown up right next to them, and now the war's over, there's no problem left to fix, and they're still waking up with nightmares. I'm like, okay, at this point, there's no problem to fix. You can't win by solving the problem. So, okay, like maybe you need to talk it out and like fix how you're thinking about things. I just think in most situations, and I say for guys because I don't know what it's like to be a girl. I don't know what it's like to have like 10x the hormones that we have and everything else. I just think for a lot of guys, it's just a coping mechanism to feel better about the problems that are going to still exist when you leave the therapist's office. And if anything, you want that trauma and that anxiety to push you to fix the problem. You know what I mean? And to remind you of the mistakes you make. Like it's kind of like if you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're like, you go into the bathroom and you slam your shin against like the side of your bed and you're like, oh, fuck, right? Then it's like the next time you wake up at 3 a.m., you have this small level of anxiety of like, hey, don't slam your shin against the bed again because that hurt last time. Let's keep that anxiety here so I don't keep slamming my shin against the bed.
Yeah.
So every day when I wake up, I hug my anxiety and I'm like, I'm glad you're here for me, anxiety. I'm like, I won't let the big bad therapist take you away from me. Don't worry.
I'm going to use you to help me get through it.
Exactly. And help me like destroy my enemies in one fell swoop, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, the only problem with that is people that have anxiety, like anxiety disorders, they go into fight or flight and sometimes they don't know why, you know, and your body reacts like these things are actually happening, even though they're not. Like you said, someone getting blown up next to you, you know, like you get real physical symptoms. It's not just in your head. Like the very first time I had my first panic attack, I was on a plane and I told the flight attendant, I said, I'm having a heart attack. And I actually really felt that, you know, I remember standing up and trying to go to the bathroom and my legs, I just felt like they were just going right through the plane and I couldn't see anything. It was so blurry. And I was like, my heart was beating so fast and like my left arm was like tingling and I was like 100% I'm dying. And I didn't know why. So that's a huge issue for me. It was a huge issue because I didn't know what was causing it, what was triggering it. And then once I started learning, okay, it might be lack of control. And like just knowing made me feel better and made me kind of like be able to work with it. But I know exactly what you're saying. Sometimes you can, you know, just use those negative things as motivation to push you to do better, to I don't know, accomplish your goals, to be like anxiety, not today. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I also think you assume that going to therapy will take away your trauma in a sense that you all of a sudden would like forget the memories of the things that actually happened to you. But those things will never go away. They will always be there because they're part of your subconscious and your conscious mind.
But it might take away the feelings associated with those memories.
It will allow you to cope with those feelings because the feelings will, in a way, like if you have anxiety, right? You become upset, you become sad, and some people become depressed. But if you no longer get the anxiety, you're no longer sad and depressed, and you're no longer upset. So I can't imagine every single time you going to a social event that like the immediate response that you have is like sadness, an emotion of like feeling upset. And like I can't imagine that because I've never seen you have that sort of a response.
But it's a lot lower now than it used to be from just repeated exposure.
Right.
But that's not about sitting in a room and screaming into your Himalayan singing bowl. You know, that's about like going and do the hard thing until eventually the levels that you feel go down. It's like if you're like scared of spiders, like, okay, well, go hang out with a bunch of spiders. It's going to be really fucking scary, but eventually you're not going to be scared and they're going to be crawling all over you. I think it's kind of like that.
Of course, but it's a much simpler way of looking at it because for you the solution was much simpler. You know, if the problem is much more complex, then the solution would be much more complex.
I don't think there are that many complex problems. I think they're just like, I think we all know what we have to do. We just don't do. Like people aren't fat because they don't know that they're supposed to work out. People are fat because they know they're supposed to work out and they don't do it.
Do you think that the trauma response of a person whose friend abandoned them when they were, how old were you at that point?
Freshman year or something.
Okay, freshman
whatever.
year. Is the same as a girl whose mother tried to kill them when they were like 9 years old?
But that's what I'm saying. That's like real trauma.
Okay.
That's like actual trauma, you know?
But that's my point, that like we just don't know what the person's trauma is and what the response is to it.
Most people, like you actually had a pretty traumatic, like you had like a war going on, like your house could be blown up at any moment. Like that's like real trauma. Most people that I hear that have trauma are like, you know, when I was 5, my mom put my sister's spelling test in the fridge and she didn't put mine on. And now I have trauma from that. And that's the reason that I like don't have loving relationships. And I'm like, no, you don't have loving relationships because like you're an asshole.
Yeah, but everybody's pain threshold is different. And that's the same as saying like if I punch you very hard, you should feel the same as me punching her very hard. It wouldn't be the same. She's going to probably feel a lot more pain than you would. You know, and equally, one of our, you know, guy friends would probably feel a lot more pain versus like one of our other guy friends who would, you know, feel a lot less pain. Mm-hmm. It's just everybody has different way of responding to pain. So if it's not equal, then you can't treat them as equal.
Yes, but the way you develop your tolerance for pain is by feeling more pain. It's like the reason mental health is the worst in all of the richest countries is because when you're in Venezuela and you have to walk 10 miles to the well with your Android phone, you have real problems. So when your girlfriend breaks up with you, it's not that big of a deal. You're like, at least I have water, right? But in America, where everything's so cushiony and you get last place in the basketball game, and oh, little Gen Z, here's your participation trophy. Let's go ride bird scooters and talk about our feelings together. Like at some point, it's like you never develop because you've never had to deal with real pain. So then everything feels painful to you because you've never had anything like difficult in your life.
I understand the logical aspect of it, and that makes sense in the logical sense. But in reality, you can't force somebody to feel pain.
All of a sudden, allow them to feel the pain and the hardships that they need to go through to become the person that they want to be.
But the thing is, everyone will feel pain at one point because that's how life is. You know, we're all going to lose a parent, a sibling. We're all going to have a breakup. Life isn't set up in a way where everything's always beautiful and no one gets to feel pain. Unfortunately, even the richest, the most famous, they're all going to feel the most unimaginable pain of, you know, grief.
Are you going to tell your 90-year-old grandma going up the stairs that like, Grandma, you don't understand how hard it is to go up 100 stairs. You can't even go up 3. Like, is that what you're going to say to your 90-year-old grandma?
Oh, no, of course
no,
not.
Exactly. Because you're like, okay, I understand she's 90 years old.
Here's understand. Her climbing stairs all day, it's like she's old. She's never going to be running up the stairs. It's impossible, right?
Okay.
But if you took a kid who's like 12 years old and he's fat and he can't make it up the stairs, and you say, oh, it's okay, like, we'll get an elevator for you so you don't have to climb those stairs, then he never learns how to climb stairs, and then he never develops into the type of person that he wants to be.
I agree with that.
But I think you equally have to have the same level of empathy and understanding towards both people. I understand from the logical perspective that hey, like, we have to put a little, like, behind you to, like you know, figure your shit out.
A little bit of bullying. You know what I mean? Like,
I understand
not too much,
that.
just like a little bit more bullying,
yeah.
I think.
People are becoming way too soft. I know what you're saying. And they, like, the coolest people, the most emotionally intelligent people I've met in my life are people who've gone through real shit, like real trauma, real things they had to overcome. And then it's like when you talk to someone that never had any issues, or at least not yet, they're not deep. And they're those are the superficial people, you know? And then, like you said, now it's kind of like in America, I mean, people are soft.
So soft.
And
That's why China's going to take our lunch.
right. I mean, I support therapy, but it's like, stop it. Okay. You didn't get your eggs, cooked the way you wanted. Now you're throwing a fit. Like, shut the fuck up. It's going to be okay.
Well, people are complaining, eggs are $5 for a dozen eggs. I'm like, that's less than $1 an egg. Literally a dollar bill that you just find on the ground. It's less than that. If that's your problem, you have more problems than like politics and inflation. Like, you need to like work harder or something.
Yeah. And they're just like way too divided, and everyone's just talking negatively about each other. And yeah, I think when people have real problems like a war going on, they are no longer divided. Everyone is, I mean, obviously the sides that are fighting are, but like the people that find themselves in that situation, they're like, okay, how we do this together? Like, how do we survive? Like, no one's talking about, anxiety or panic attacks. So I know what you're saying, but that's also called survival mode.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been talking too much. Let's talk about your relationship status, because we're also short on time, so I want to kind of go through this. Let's talk about your relationship history. So when you moved to LA and the sort of the reality of LA dating hitting you, and what was that like?
So when I got to LA, I was very much in my hustle zone, mode, and I was just like, okay, how do I make money, blah, blah, blah. Then I started working at One Oak, and then, I did start dating someone that I dated for a long time. And I'm actually really glad that happened, because being in a relationship for so long in LA kind of protected me from all the crazy things I could have got into when I was at One Oak, I remember people would come in, and then the next day we're on a private jet flying to Miami, and I mean, thankfully it was me and my ex and the people, because they were like our clients together. But I was thinking, I was like, what if I was single during that time? Like, I don't know how long I'd be able to make good decisions, So I'm grateful that I had that relationship, and I learned a lot. It wasn't successful, and I'm actually really, really happy that I am not in a relationship right now, and I'm just working on myself. And it's interesting how when you work on yourself and you see your value, like, you can have anyone you want. It's actually insane. Like, I get hit on more now at 35 than I did back then. Like, I'll go to a festival and a billionaire will hit on me. And like, people always think, oh, like, you'll be expired, or like, nobody will want you. That's not the case for me. Like, I was just in Miami, and, a very, very successful guy was like trying to wife me up, and literally not just have sex. He was like, please move in. So I think women really need to just work on valuing themselves and knowing their worth, without letting the society telling them, you're too old, or you're too that. Like, once you really believe in yourself, like, you're unstoppable. Like, right now, I have 2 movies out. I'm working on my 3rd one. I already started writing it. And I'm just like, no one can stop me. Like, I don't give a fuck who says what. Like, those people are superficial. They don't know me. What they think of me is none of my fucking business. So if you think I'm too old for a billionaire, I don't give a fuck, because I know my value. So to answer your question, I'm happily single by choice. My next my next boyfriend will be my husband. So that's why I'm in no rush. It will be real. I don't care how rich he is. For me, it's more important that he is a fucking real person that I can talk to, that's not gonna go cheat on me, and that's not gonna go live a double life kind of thing. And so, I'm chilling right now.
Is that why you guys broke up?
Oh my God. So I don't really want to get into it too much, but let's just say that we didn't have a good breakup. There was just a lot going on. There are people in the relationship that I wasn't aware of. And it's funny how they say, like, everyone around you will be like, well, there's no way she didn't know. Well, it's like, there is a way I didn't know, because I wasn't doing that. So I guess I was naive, but I mean, I was not doing that. So like, I didn't think it was happening. So Yeah, but I don't hold a grudge or anything, you know.
Sure.
I love my ex and I love my two other exes that I was in serious relationships with, and I will always love them and wish them well. They serve their purpose in my life, and I'm grateful, you know. So there's no bad feelings or anything. Like, I wish him the best, you know.
Okay. How long were you guys together?
8 years.
8 years. Yeah. And then how did you find out?
So it was just a DM from someone, like a mutual friend.
From the, not the person.
No,
that
not the
he was
person.
with.
She was actually in on it. So that's how I didn't find out. Like, if I FaceTimed him, he would answer every single time. You know, it was one of those things, like, you couldn't really even not trust him because he was always available. Like, if I ever called, it wasn't ever like, why is he not answering kind of thing, to give me kind of a hint. So, but I was also like focusing on my career. I was working on my movies. I was, you know, so I wasn't like, I have to take responsibility for not being what he needed me to be as well.
Well, let me ask you this.
There's always like two people in every relationship,
Sure.
right?
Because you said something very interesting, which like, it gives me sort of a second thought on the subject, which is, it seems like that when you said that you didn't have a reason to think that there was anything going on, is because you and your relationship were satisfied, meaning that he was doing everything that he was supposed to do as a partner when it came to you. He was giving you what you needed, and there was no reason for you to feel neglected.
Well, not really. He wasn't giving me what every woman needs, and that's to be seen and heard and loved. But once you're in a relationship for so long, you don't really see that like that. You kind of think, oh, it's been so long, it's normal. Oh, it's been so long, like, of course we don't have the same passion, or we don't have the same, but like, it was okay. Like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't necessarily good either.
Got it.
And I was really focused on my career the last few years, and I didn't give him the attention that he needed either, or the love. So, you know, once you go through a breakup, you have to take a look in the mirror. The easiest thing is to point the finger and be like, you did this and you did this and you did this. Yeah. That's why I don't even like really talking about it too much, about what he did, because we were in it together.
Of course.
And there's a lot of things that I did. Like, I wasn't what he needed me to be. But I mean, I was really heartbroken when I found out, especially because, you know, like, it was around the same people that he would have me around. So I was kind of like the dummy in the room, which really hurt, you know, being around, like, I felt stupid. And I kind of knew, I was like, oh my God, all these people knew, like, everyone knew but me. And people thought that I was just pretending not to know because I liked the lifestyle, but that wasn't the case. And so, like, all those people I thought were my friends were not my friends, because they're also hanging out with that other person. And then also, like, I never blamed the woman. I was not in a relationship with her. I was in a relationship with him. However, to be, you know, that cool with it, to be a side chick just to get some money out of it or whatever she was getting, is kind of crazy. Like, I can't even imagine what she was feeling. So I have compassion for both of them. The type of people that they are is going to take a long time for them to be happy with anyone ever. And I have empathy and compassion. And like I said, I really did get past it. There was a time where I was like really heartbroken and sad. I mean, he tried to get back with me this whole time. I'm not even joking. Like, at any point, if I wanted him back, I could have had him back. He's going to fucking hate this podcast, by the way. But to me, it's like, it was a learning process. I learned what I don't want. I don't give a fuck what you have. I don't give a shit what kind of car you drive or what kind of vacation you're going to take me to and what kind of Chanel bag you're going to buy me. If you can't love me the right way, I do not want you, period. That's it.
But would you also be naturally and initially attracted to somebody who doesn't have those attributes? Because it seems to me that as somebody who's made success of her own, I mean, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but would you say, even high to a guy that, you know, doesn't come off as somebody who's on a richer end of the spectrum?
Absolutely. Yes. If you asked me this 10 years ago, I would say no. I was superficial too, which is why him and I got along really good. You know, he gave me what I wanted at the time, which was, you know, material things, gifts, bags, vacations. But we'd go to Maldives and we'll pay $3,000 a night for a villa, and he'd be downstairs on his phone and I'm upstairs by myself drinking a coffee. That was fine for me back then. It is no longer, that's just not what satisfies me anymore.
You've experienced that part of the life and you no longer see value in it.
It just doesn't do it for me anymore. So I'm just being completely honest. Like, if you asked me this 10 years ago, I'd be like, ew, broke guys? No. Now I'm at a point where it's like, I'm pretty good in my life, you know, and of course, you know, nobody wants to date someone broke and like take care of them and like have to, you know, I'm not gonna do that either, but I also don't prioritize how much someone makes. Like, I want him to be able to really love me the right way. I think that's number one, and to be a kind, good person that gives back to the world.
So if you met like a musician who's, you know, up and coming and still focusing on his craft, just doesn't have the money, you know, kind of couch surfing, but very good singer, you know, but just
well, couch surfing doesn't sound very attractive.
You know, he just moved to LA from Ohio to like go after his dreams, you know. He's trying to figure it out, head in first. Yeah,
those type of people, I mean, they're way younger, I think, at this point, so they're not really in my dating pool.
Got it.
And
what if he used to work for a Spectrum and then, you know, in Ohio and just like
listen,
or he was he was an electrician.
Listen, as long as he's ambitious and he's working on something and he's giving back, I will consider him. You know, I've had multiple extremely rich men. I already told you guys the last 2 years. I mean, even my ex's friends, again, like everyone. And I'm like, it's just doesn't do it for me anymore. Like, I would love for it to do it for me. My life would be so much easier if I can just be a trophy wife.
Right.
I wouldn't worry about anything, but I can't. You know that feeling when you lay in bed next to someone and you feel empty? Have you ever felt that? Mm-hmm. And unfulfilled?
Not particularly, but carry on.
Well, I felt that. Mm-hmm. And there's no amount of money that can make that better.
Did any of your ex's friends ever hit on you while you guys were together?
Yes. Not like they would slide in a DM and text me, but, you know, like at One Oak, they would, and they'd get drunk. They'd say certain things, but it wasn't too bad.
Okay. So it wasn't anything that you would have to like bring up to him or? No. Okay.
There was nothing to that level. I mean, I had other people hit on me that you know would make him uncomfortable, like Justin Bieber. Like One Oak, you know, we had every celebrity in the books. I mean, G-Eazy one time like followed me downstairs and tried to make out, and I'm like calling my boyfriend at the time. I was like, oh my god, what do I do? So of course those kind of things would make him jealous, but he wasn't a jealous person.
Okay. Yeah. What would he say you should do?
He's like, just tell him to leave you alone. Like, I don't know what else you want me to say. Thanks. Cool.
Did that come off as like, did that make you unattracted to him? His response, his way of like sort of not standing up for you in a sense?
Yes, I would want more of a protector. Uh-huh. You know, I would want more of not saying
he's
get
on the phone, right?
Yeah,
well, he was there. He was upstairs.
Yeah, he was upstairs.
Oh, he was upstairs.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I wouldn't want him to like get in someone's face and that kind of aggression. I mean, even that would be kind of cooler than, you know, being like, I don't know what the fuck to do. But I did need that. Yeah, like to feel like more like that I'm safe with someone, that he's a protector, that, you know, people respect him so much that they wouldn't hit on me and things like that.
It's interesting because I understand where he's coming from, right? Like, I understand in his mind, he's thinking to himself, okay, well, I don't want to create rift between, you know, my relationship with this celebrity at this venue and also with these venue's owners, right? But on the other hand, I'm also thinking, okay, as the person's partner, you have to be protective, and like you're just kind of caught in this area of not knowing what the best thing to do is for your personal self, you know?
Yeah.
So I get it, but that's why I asked that question, because it's one of those things that I feel like you would have had to gone through, especially because of your job and his job. So
yeah, we had a lot of that, and I think that's one thing that we navigated pretty well.
Are you into monogamy, or have you done open relationships? What are your thoughts on those two topics?
I'm more conservative, so I'm into monogamy and complete transparency. So if somebody's into open relationships, I have no judgment there. It's just not for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, it's interesting to me because your career path.
Sorry, I was in an open relationship. I just didn't know it.
Oh yeah, one-sided open relationship.
Because nobody told you that.
No, until apparently I knew all along. But
So, but your career path is very tricky. Being with someone who's, let's say, has the same value system as you, which would mean they're also conservative in that sense, and they would want to be in a monogamous relationship. And I understand that you're going to probably come back and say that, oh, well, you know, I'm producing my own movies and like I'm going to write these. But let's say, for the sake of this conversation, you get a massive role and you're not a writer, you're not the producer. And all you are in this scenario is the actress. And you have to have a sex scene or a make-out session or whatever it is with this other actor. How do you expect your partner to respond?
so that already happened to me. And my partner was the one that encouraged me to actually do it, because he says it's art. I don't care. I mean, he knew that there's nothing sexy about a sex scene. It's absolutely not sexy. It's awkward as hell. And nobody's having fun. Nobody's turned on. You know, there's an intimacy coordinator on set. There's like, there are pillows.
Intimacy coordinator?
Yeah.
That's
And then
funny.
there are literally like pillows that are like skin color between you. So, I mean, it's not sexy. If anything, I guess the kiss could be a problem. But I think if that's your job, the other person should understand, you know, because it's not real. It's not like the other person's 9 out of 10 times married or in a relationship, you know, and it's like, I remember when I had to do my sex scene, I told my ex if he wanted to be on set, he could. He didn't want to, but
how does that change the fact that you are going to be physically doing the thing, the very thing that would make somebody a cheater or make somebody feel a certain way about that physical connection that you're not supposed to be having? Because saying that you're conservative in that sense, but then at the same time also saying that it's just a job, it seems contradictory to me.
Yeah, well, it's not like I'm a porn star saying it's just a job, right? Because that's different. They're actually having sex. They're actually, you know, having sex for an hour with multiple people a week. When you're acting, you're not actually doing it. You're not having sex. And if there is a kiss, I mean, there's a director, there's a producer. It's not really like you're connecting with this person. Like you don't have, like you literally come shoot and go home and you have no connection with this person. There's no emotions involved. There's no, like when women cheat, there are emotions involved. That's why most women, when they cheat, they fall in love with whoever they're cheating with.
How many examples of actors and actresses do you know of that were in committed relationships? They started doing scenes together and then they broke up with their partners to be together.
A lot. No, you have a point for sure. And I could, like, if I was with someone that had a problem with that, I wouldn't do the scenes. I would just say, like, listen, get a body double, because that's also possible. You could do that. My ex was actually very supportive of my career, and he helped me with my movie. He helped me a lot. So he didn't mind, because that was also like partly his movie. However, if I was with a partner that said, listen, I don't want you doing this, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
That's respectable. I think
Yeah.
that's a less of a contradictory answer because then that way you're actually, sticking with what your morals and values are in the relationship, because that's what comes first. So then therefore, if we're in a monogamous relationship and your partner says, hey, based upon a relationship, I do not want you to do this, and you're respecting that, then
I absolutely wouldn't do it. I would put my relationship as number one for sure.
Have you ever had a situation where you were offered or pressured or implied you can get this role if you hook up with me, or something like that situation?
Yeah, of course.
Super common?
Yeah. Actually, I met with the manager a long time ago, maybe like 6-7 years ago, that asked me straight up, what are you willing to do for roles?
Interesting.
And I literally looked at him. I was like, what do you mean? Like everything? Because I didn't think
about that.
I was thinking more like acting classes.
Like, I'll wake up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, like I'll be the first one on set. I was like, I'll do everything. I was like, I want this really bad. He's like, everything? And then I kind of looked at him and I was like, not like that. No. He's like, would you have dinner with the producer and the director? I'm like, oh God. So I said no. But would it be easier? Yes. I would get there a lot sooner. I would have, by this point, I already have a lot of movies under my belt versus just like 2 or 3. But that's just not my road, and that's, I say again, I don't judge people that choose that path. I mean, Marilyn Monroe did, it's like the oldest trick in the books, like during her time, they were calling it castings on the couch. You come in, you don't even read anything, you just get on the couch.
It's interesting in that sense. Do you think that attractive women have it harder than unattractive women in the acting industry? Yes. In the entertainment industry?
I think attractive women, they have pretty privilege in a lot of ways. In life, just people do things for you for free all the time. Like people fix my car for free. Like anywhere I go, people just offer things to me. But they also have a lot more problems because there's like most of the time somebody will want to hook up with you in order to give you what you want, I guess you could say. And in every way, shape, and form.
Would you ever give that away for anything? Give away your pretty privilege if it meant that you would get the gigs that you wanted much easier?
Would I give away being pretty? No. We're being honest.
Well, come on, no. I'm not gonna go that far.
I don't know. This time around, God gave me the cute face. Nah, I don't want to be ugly. Sorry.
That's funny.
Because guess what? I'll make my own fucking movies.
Yeah.
You know how many times I heard no, and then I said one day, cool, I'm gonna make my own movie. I'm gonna invest my own money. I'm gonna find my own investor. I'm gonna make my own story. And that's what you do. If nobody wants to do it, if nobody wants to believe in you, and they just want to like hook up in order to give you something, it wouldn't even feel good though once you get it. You know what I mean? Like if you got a role, it feels like you
cheated to get the role.
Yeah, if you get the role because you hooked up with the producer, the director, you don't even feel like you deserve it. You don't even feel like, what's the point of that? I want to earn it, and I earned it with my hard work, and I'm going to continue to earn it and keep making more.
Do you think women should submit to their men in relationships?
In which way? Like, hey, you own me?
I don't know if the word submit particularly means ownership, but I do think that it means that the man is in charge at that point.
I think that modern feminism has ruined women. I think that the whole like equality and I want to be a man and I want to, work as much as a man does, blah, 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 is a whole lot of nonsense. We are biologically different. We are meant to be different. Women are meant to be feminine, to be in our feminine energy, to nurture the men, to, support them spiritually, to cook for them, to just like be there for them and take care of them and not pretend like they're the providers. And then, so I think that when women are in their feminine, that's when they're the most powerful, and that's when they're like in their natural state. So for me, and I wouldn't say this 5 years ago, but now I want to be with a man that's more masculine, that makes the decisions, that tells me, hey, get ready, we're going somewhere. Like, that's exciting to me. I don't want to have to fucking call the restaurant, make a reservation, figure out where we're going, call the travel agent, pick up, do all these things that, in my opinion, men should do. And people can have their own opinions, but that's my preference. I want a man to be in his masculine. I want him to, decide for us, to tell me what we're doing. I just want the man to be the man.
A lot of girls are fucking it up for you guys. I've had so many girls tell me, they're like, yeah, like, I want a guy to like pay for dinner and do all this stuff. And all these girls are making it seem like men shouldn't do that. It's like, no, I don't want to like have to do all this shit.
No, I feel bad for men nowadays. Like, they don't even know what to do. Like, they open the door and it's like, I got it myself.
Yeah, there are stories like that.
Okay, well then, I guess I'm not going to open it for the next girl. So the next girl comes around, she's like, he didn't even open doors for me. It's like, okay, well, what do I do, So I like the family dynamic. I like man, woman, and a child dynamic. And I think that that's kind of more of how it should be. But dating world is all messed up. And I think nowadays, especially in big cities, LA is just terrible. But it's possible. My girlfriend, she's 37. She just met a man a year ago. Now they're married. She actually has a kid. He accepted her kid. They're married. They bought a house. He's a millionaire. He's taking care of her fully. And that's what she wanted. So it's possible. And he's not cheating on her. They're together like all the time. Mm-hmm. It's possible to find that. It's just opening up and understanding it's there and it still exists.
Do you think you're going to have trust? Have you been dating since you broke up?
Yeah.
How's that been going?
Definitely did not want to get too close to anybody. Mm-hmm. Had to work on my trust issues. Mm. And I'm finally getting to a point where I feel healed. And I said earlier, we're always healing, but I feel healed from that situation. Mm-hmm. We're to the point where there's no resentment, there's no hate, now it's just love. Like, if we talked about this 6 months ago, I still had a lot of anger. So like, I would have said a lot of mean things and I would have been like, fuck him and fuck this, fuck that. Now it's different. I understand, maybe some of his reasoning, and I really do wish him well. And I think that for my next relationship, I will be so much better. Like, I will be finally, like, it prepared me for what I should be as a woman as well.
So do you think your trust issues are going to linger into your next relationship, or are you expecting it not?
I think if I jumped into it right away, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But because I took 2 years to myself and worked on myself, and yes, dated but very casually, and I would tell people straight up, I'm like a very honest person. I'd be like, listen, this is never going anywhere. If you are looking for a relationship, let's just end it right here. And interestingly, men see that as like a challenge when you tell them that. So all of a sudden they're like, no, cool, we'll just be hanging out. Then it's like 2 months later, they like sit you down and say, listen, like, I would really like to take this to the next level. I'm like, I told you this is not what I wanted. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I did casually date and worked on myself the entire time. And I feel like now I'm starting to be ready for something real. And I don't think, to answer your question, I don't think I'll have trust issues.
Fingers crossed. So I've heard some women suggest that they should have access to their partner's phones. What do you think about that?
I don't think so. Listen, it's obvious if his phone is, always facing down, and if it like vibrates, he like runs upstairs, you might have an issue, and you might want to like.
Put mine facing down. I literally always put mine facing down.
You might want to like wait till he falls asleep and check that. I'm just kidding.
That happened to me.
Yeah, but if you feel safe in a relationship, I don't have time for that. Like, I'm not trying to go through your phone. I'm trying to like enjoy life, you know what I mean, and plan our next vacation and have sex. Like, I'm not gonna look through your phone, and I don't want you looking through mine, because there are private conversations that I have with my girlfriends about their lives. I don't want to see all that anyway in his phone.
Okay, cool. What do you consider cheating?
Having sex with somebody else, or making out with somebody else, or having an emotional bond with somebody else.
Okay, so let's the first two are mutually agreed upon most of the time. The third one sometimes becomes tricky. Some people agree with it, some people don't. What is emotional? What is emotional cheating in your view?
Well, I think emotional cheating usually involves one or two. I mean, people don't really get emotionally attached to someone if there's nothing going on between them, right?
I don't
Or
know
do
if that's
they?
true.
So
You're saying if there's nothing physical going on?
yeah.
Yeah, I think especially girls to guys can get emotionally attached even if there's no physical part yet.
What about guys to girls?
I think it's more rare for sure. But
Yeah.
I think it happens.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's one. That one's kind of tricky for sure. But yeah, I think even when people cheat, I think it's less hurtful if it's like a one-time thing and then there's no emotions involved, and then it's a whole different thing if, you know, they care about each other and they're like traveling together and they actually have a life outside of your life with him.
Would you be more hurt if a guy who you're dating comes home, he's like, hey, I have something to tell you. Like, I hooked up with this girl. Honestly, it means nothing to me. It was a bad decision in the moment. I don't even remember her name. I don't have her contact information. I don't give a fuck about this girl. Mm-hmm. Or to hurt more if a guy came home and said, hey, I just want to be honest with you. I went out for drinks with this girl and I actually really liked her, but don't worry, I didn't do anything physical.
I think drinks would be less hurtful to me.
Interesting. Most girls say the drinks one is more hurtful, and most guys say the
because he already crossed the line and he cheated. Because to me, it doesn't matter that it meant nothing. What matters is that he knew that we're in a committed relationship and that would deeply hurt me. Mm-hmm. So even if it's casual or he doesn't even have her information, he still made that choice.
Like there's a clear line that he crossed that he knew was going to hurt you. Versus the other one is kind of like this, a little ambiguous. Is it wrong? Is it not wrong? Well, it kind of depends how close you are with this person.
Exactly. And the fact that he came to me and told me, I would be like, okay, you know, that's fine. Like, what made you want to do that? But if he just went out there and just like cheated, that would be a lot harder to forgive, at least for me. Because, you know, like I'm very open when I say that I want a committed relationship. You know, people that have open relationships, first of all, I don't know a single open relationship that ended up successful in the end.
I think it's
right. There's always, you know, someone falls in love or something happens. And like, even those like polyamorous relationships, you know, like you're laying in bed and you're crying because you know that somebody is like sleeping with your man at that same time and you're supposed to be cool with it and you can't even say anything about it. I think most people aren't wired that way, and it just doesn't work. So what works usually, it's either like just being single forever or monogamy for me.
I just think open relationships are kind of like non-existent. Like you might as well just be
single.
We're hooking up.
Yeah,
we're single and we're hooking up.
Yeah,
like, it's the same thing.
Like, what's the point of being in an open
relationship?
It's
just like, it's just you have a fuck buddy who you also enjoy hanging out with outside the sex.
Yeah, and who you take like to
Christmas
dinner. It's
still a fuck buddy. Like it's kind of the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really see the difference.
Okay, so
why you would disagree?
100%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, open relationships are the healthiest type of relationships.
So why have a relationship then? Why just not be single?
What is a relationship?
No, I'm asking you.
No, I'm asking you what a relationship is.
What a relationship with a significant other?
What do you define as a relationship?
A relationship is...
what are the criterias that would make you feel like you're in a relationship versus you dating someone? What's the difference?
Loving someone, being loved, being loyal to them, and then being loyal to me, having complete transparency and honesty, supporting each other, you know, pushing each other to be the best versions of ourselves.
Okay. So an open relationship is a person you're having all of those things with, except you're having sexual relationship with other people, but you do not have those things with those other people.
Yeah, but no, naturally that usually doesn't work for women, because women get emotionally attached to people they're having sex with. It's actually proven scientifically.
Sure. However, not every woman is like that. So there are women that could have casual sex and not become attached to the person. Doesn't mean that every single, but majority of the time you are correct.
Yeah, and if you find that, there's no judgment here. Go for it. I just don't know a single one that worked out, especially if people want to end up, you know, with a family and have children. And then what are you going to have? Like your children be, oh, this is mom A and this is mom B and C and D. Oh, and that's the fuck buddy. And then this is her fuck buddy. Like,
the problem with monogamy and the way that it's presented in society is that the reason why we feel the way that we do towards our partner, which is possession, jealousy, not wanting them to be with anybody else, right? This is majority of the time out of the sense of selfishness and also having ego. Nobody wants to feel like, nobody wants to be hurt. You know, nobody wants to get hurt. And majority of the time, the way that we get hurt by somebody else is feeling like they're going to either leave us, or that there's somebody else better than us, or that they're going to share the same sort of feelings with somebody else. But here's the reality of life. Somebody else is better than you. Somebody else is, I mean, that's just true. Yeah. You're not the prettiest person on the planet.
yeah, but if someone loves you deeply, you are the prettiest person to them. And what you're saying is actually not reality. That is your perception. That's what you believe. But just because you believe that doesn't mean that's reality.
What is my belief?
Well, you said, you know, for that person, a relationship, there's always someone prettier. That's because you look at it from a superficial level, from how do you look.
Well, it's just the truth of the matter.
No, it is. But like if you love someone deeply and they satisfy your needs, all of your needs. And I've had this before. Like I was in a committed, happy relationship before. The problem is we were just way too young. I did not want to look at anyone else, and he did not want to look at anyone else either. Like his needs were fulfilled, and it wasn't like he felt like I was possessive and I owned him. He did not want to do that himself. That's the difference. You don't own anyone in this lifetime, you know. And then if you get to that point and you're in a monogamous relationship, all you have to do is talk about it. And if people decide, okay, that's cool, let's open it. I know a couple that opened their marriage recently. That's cool too, if that's what they both agree on. You know, if that's the point that they get to. Like, it's just I think more of a preference. But to say monogamous relationships don't work is I mean,
when you look at the divorce rate now versus before, the reality is that society has become this big pile of comparison, right?
Yeah.
We have so much access to the things that we didn't have before. Our grandparents did not have access to look at, you know, what their neighbors were doing, what their friends were doing. You know, they didn't have this sense of feeling less at all times. Now we do. You look at somebody's Instagram page and it's constantly like, I'm comparing this person whose photos are uploaded to this platform to what I'm seeing in the mirror.
Yeah, but that's
not understanding that this person on Instagram has the same exact face as you do when you're looking at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Because nobody looks like this.
No, I completely agree with that.
So when you feel like that, on the guy's perspective also is the same. They're looking at these girls, they're like, oh damn, like she's so hot, right? And they have this feeling of urges, all these different urges. You know, women are comparing themselves. Women are looking at their partners and they're like, oh, you don't have money to take me on a jet. You don't have money to take me on these like trips. All these things. So the fancy things, the blings and all these great stuff that everybody talks about, all of a sudden becomes a part of a sense of need for you.
For a certain type of people.
Of course.
Not for everybody.
Sure.
I don't want any of that. I've had a billionaire hitting on me like 3 weeks ago, asking me if I want to go on a private jet and to pick a place in the world. I said no. So that's not for everybody. You're talking about superficial people. You're talking about people who get the quick fix, who get the quick dopamine by having sex, by having, doing drugs. But how do you feel the next day? Like, if you feel good, cool, go do it. But most people don't. Most people feel like, just like after they do Molly or they get wasted the next day, they feel drained. They feel, why the fuck did I do that? They don't feel good about it. And sex is sacred. Like, what people understand, and I didn't understand this just 2 years ago either. You're always, like, when you have sex, you are connecting on a spiritual level with this person, whether you know it or not, and every person you have sex with will affect you in one way or another. And if people don't give a shit about you and they're having sex with you and they're having sex with a million other people, that's not a good feeling. You're very disposable to them. You're a toy. If I want that, I can go home and play with my toy. I don't need you at all. I want like a more meaningful relationship, and I want real love. And guess what? I know what you're saying is true, because most people are like that nowadays, but I don't want it then. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's, then I'm cool by myself and with my toy. Like, what do I gain from you then? Like, what do you add to my life if I know you're going to go and cheat and be with other girls and knowingly like hurt me? Because I don't want that. I don't want open.
Well, yeah, if you're talking about that you don't want it, then
yeah,
sure, of course, it's understandable. But then your partner would be cheating on you. But in reality, yes, if you are in an open relationship, there is no reason for you to feel like you're being cheated on, because you know that your partner is going to come back to you regardless.
Yeah, and I agree with that, as long as that's what you disclose in the beginning and both agree that you want an open relationship. I'm just saying, I still to this day, I don't know a single one, unless the girl is bi, where that worked out in the long run. I'm monogamous. I know, like, every day it's like few and few less, but at least I know some
that work
right
out.
Like, yeah, in the Midwest.
That's funny. Final question: does size matter?
No, if they know how to use it, it doesn't matter.
Have you ever encountered a micro penis?
Yes, I have, and yeah, we didn't even proceed. Because it just wasn't really like functioning. So it wasn't like I was mean about it and I said, oh my God, what is that? I'm not doing it. It just didn't work. And now when I think about it, I'm like, was that a man, or was that like some kind of a surgery situation? Because that's really, it was weird. But I don't think size matters. Like, for me, I had the best sex of my life with someone who was probably average or below average, because we had a really, really, really strong connection, like soul connection and love. And I was just like, literally, I could like have sex with him all day, every day, all the time, and have the best sex ever. Versus like, I've had sex with someone who had, huge size, and it just wasn't it. So I don't think it matters, no, unless it's like abnormally small. Nobody wants that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You were fantastic. There's so much more we could talk about, but we are short on time. This actually went on pretty long as is, but
thanks for having me. Love your guys' podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. We'll see you.